I'm going to take a sip. I'm having rosé and a banana for breakfast. Good morning. You are listening to Long Distance BFFs podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kim.
And I'm your other host, Patty. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome back. This is our second episode now.
Yeah,
Official episode,
second
right?
official episode. Man. So let's get into the heavy hitters. I'm just kidding. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, Patty?
That's probably the worst interview question you could ask somebody, right?
Honestly, it's like, why? Can we all protest that question for
Yeah, I've been
interviewers?
reading some books about recruiting and questions to ask top players in your organizations.
Mm,
And this question is definitely not what you should be asking because, especially in today's market, job market, that is, there are so many opportunities for candidates to go to these days. And so, you as an organization, you're setting yourself up for almost like a untrusted or not trustworthy commitment with each other when asking that question, because as a interviewee, you're going to say, I can see myself excelling in your company or the position that I'm in or I'm
yeah,
interviewing for, right? So
yeah. There we have it. I mean, you completely explained why that's not the best question to be asking. So, if you couldn't already tell, we're going to be discussing career paths. And, both Patty and I were the same age and we did a lot of things differently. So, we thought it would be interesting to kind of dive into each of our own paths and see what we did in contrast to one another. So, yeah, I thought we could maybe start with Patty. Like, how did you get your start? I'm just kidding. But
well,
you know what I mean.
piggybacking off our first episode about how we met in high school and where we separated and me
Yeah.
going off to college. By the way, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it now and then come back. So after high school, I applied to a college, a few colleges actually. And the one that I got into and the one that I chose was SDSU,
Woo.
San Diego State University.
Go
Go Aztecs.
Aztecs.
So that was, I guess, what launched my career. But before that, I should also note that I was an immigrant to the US.
POC queen.
So my family and I moved to the US for, the American dream and yada, yada, yada. But I think, of course, at the time, it was this exciting unknown thing as a kid moving to a new country and your parents basically making the decision for you. But now, in hindsight, I can't thank my mom enough for bringing us here because I don't think I would have the same path or track
Mhm.
that I have now if I would have stayed in the Philippines.
Go
So I was
Josephine.
Josephine, yes. Maybe she's listening. I will tell her that we started a podcast. So
Oh, hello, tita.
maybe.
In case you're listening.
Yes. So, as an immigrant and the first to go to college in my immediate family, there was, of course, a lot of pressure, and my mom not going to college herself. I don't know. She just always recommended, or even before we even moved to the US, she was always like, you have to go to college, blah, blah, blah. So, I grew up
Yeah.
having this expectation for myself that I'm going to go to college, even though I didn't know what that was for. And
Mm.
of course, when you're young, you're kind of forced to say, I want to be a doctor or a nurse and blah, 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 which
I wanted to be a
neither of them I took.
veterinarian. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so bad.
I could see that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm still thinking like maybe I could still go down that path, or that route, but yeah. But I
Yeah.
totally agree. Yeah.
Especially Filipino moms, though, the
Oh,
doctor and nurse path.
yes, absolutely.
You know about that life.
Uh-huh. I know all about that life.
I think my mom kind of backed off
Oh, I'm
maybe
sure.
my halfway through my college career. But yeah, so after high school, I got into SDSU with the. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Did you look around because?
No.
Oh no,
What
okay.
did you
There
hear?
was like my neighbors. They're yelling and screaming. What the heck? So let me know if you hear it.
In German?
Yeah, yeah,
9!
9. Yeah, that's what I just heard.
Oh my
So.
gosh. It's, like, so typical, like, I could have imagined that, and that's actually what happened. But anyway. Oh, she taking a sip. I'll take a sip.
What was I saying?
Well, your mom backed off, and I think for good reason because I feel like midway through college she was like, "Ah, she got this." Like
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
doing
So
well. Don't need to pressure her.
exactly. So yeah, being the first to go to college, there was definitely a lot of pressure, of course, to make it, but also to go through all the steps of applying to college, applying for financial aid. Luckily, we were both part of a program called Puente, right?
Mhm.
No, you dropped off.
No, yeah, I just laughed because Puente, that program was literally meant to be like Puente means bridge, so it's the bridge to college. And I just gave Patty a look over FaceTime right now. I laughed because I didn't go to college, so it's funny that I was in that like all of high school and I didn't even go. We even visited colleges together. We
We
went on a
did.
college trip. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so fun. And then we were like drooling over college boys. I remember I even took a picture with two of them. If you scroll way back in my
Oh
Instagram,
my
you could
gosh.
see.
That's right. I was
Yeah,
jealous. I remember
that's
being
the tea.
jealous.
Are you serious?
I was like, "Oh my god, I could never, like, I don't have that confidence. I could never, like, get a
Oh my
picture with these
gosh.
college men."
See, if we were
Men.
close back then, I would have been I would have been like, "No, Kim, you're taking a picture right
I
now with
know.
me."
She
Because
would've.
I remember I forced Monica to take it because I was like, "Okay, if I'm doing this, you're doing this." And
Oh,
so we both did it.
oh, that's so cute.
And the tour guides completely knew. So they
What
were
you were doing.
tour guides. I don't know if I mentioned that, but they completely knew, I'm sure, that we
Yeah.
were, we had a little crush on them. But
Oh my goodness. That's funny. Yeah, if we were closer, you definitely would have turned this little caterpillar into a butterfly, but sooner.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I was
Um
like very shy back then. Anyway, so
so
we were a part of
yeah.
Puente.
And they basically, honestly, I think I even applied to the program in 8th grade because all of my friends were doing it. I don't, all this time that my mom was saying, "Hey, go to college, blah blah blah." Of course she didn't know how to do that, but staying in school, I guess, and hanging out with the right crowd,
Yeah,
quote unquote, the crowd who also had this goal or whose family
would
told
motivate
them
you
how to
too.
get. Yeah, exactly. They motivated me to um, do it as well, even though I mean, I really had no idea. I didn't even know what I was going to college for or wanted to go to college for.
Mm.
So I remember even in our senior year when a lot of people were like, "Yeah, I'm going to go to college for this major and study this and finish in 3 or not 3 quarters, but
3 years.
3 years."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, "Okay, I'm here for the experience."
But that's good.
So,
Yeah. I honestly think it was good that you went into college with such an open mind and not really sure almost what you were doing.
it surely relieved a lot of that pressure that I saw in a lot of people that were like,
Mm.
"If I don't pass this class, it's over for me." And,
Jeez. Yeah.
yeah. So, I decided to go in for an accounting major because it was safe and I had no interest in it at all, to be honest. It was just like, I knew I didn't want to do any sort of biology because I wasn't really on track to be a doctor or nurse. And then business was just this like obvious choice for me for some
Mm.
reason because I knew not that business doesn't take a lot, but it's a lot of also like people skills or having people skills.
Ah.
Arguably, that might be wrong, but to me, that's how I looked at it as. So I picked it and I was like, okay, accounting. I don't know what that is, but I guess I'll learn it in college. And then after my second semester of freshman year in college, I actually had this professor who was actually kind of hot. And
Hello.
he, those type of professors, you just they help you want to stay motivated in the
Oh,
class. And the class
definitely.
was information systems or management information systems. And so, of course, I was going to office hours trying to inquire about the role, or not the role, but the career path of a management information systems
Air
major.
quotes,
And
inquire.
exactly. No, I mean, I was actually a chicken and didn't really do anything, but it was nice because he was on the younger side and all my other professors in my college career so far were older, and I don't know, they just didn't
Yeah.
speak to the language of a 18, 19-year-old
Just maybe a little
freshman.
boring, it sounds like,
Yeah,
yeah?
exactly.
Mm,
So he made the subject really fun and easy to understand, and
that's the best.
it just so happened to be about technology, and so growing up with technology, I always thought of myself as someone to have a quick grasp on technology.
Nice.
So, it was rather easy for me to comprehend, more than accounting. Oh my god, I cannot even think
Oh,
of the further accounting,
that
like,
sounds like a
subjects.
nightmare to me. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, and I completely agree. I think you are really good naturally with tech. Even starting up this podcast, it showed because she got her mic set up and she found the systems we were going to use right away. So I can vouch for that.
A lot of technology is just Googling the answers
Maybe I don't have good Google
for it.
skills. No, I'm trying, but yeah, so I guess, meanwhile, Patty's going to college and getting everything geared up. For the record, I did apply to college and I got into all the colleges I applied to. I only applied to three because
Woohoo!
can we talk about how you have to pay for applications? I don't think
Oh my gosh.
that is so unfair. I couldn't grasp it then and I still can't grasp it now, almost 7 years later. It's like, why are we making high school students pay to apply to college and then for some to not even be accepted? That's just so unfair.
Exactly, and I was on the lucky side, of course, not lucky in the grand scheme, but my mom
Ah.
was or is a single parent and was getting and I was able to get that government financial support throughout high school, and so that also pertained to the college application. So I was able to, I think, apply for 4 UCs, so University of California schools, and then 4 state schools as well.
Oh,
So
nice.
I did apply to all of them because I was like, well, I'm just going to maximize it and
Yeah.
shoot for the stars. And I did end up getting into, I think, 2 or 3 of them too, which was fine. And I ended up picking San Diego State out
Ah,
of all of
the
those.
best
So,
choice. I did mention
yes.
that in the last podcast. I'm so thankful that she chose San Diego State. But yeah, going back to me applying. So I applied to those three colleges and got into them, and I chose SF State in the end because I've always loved San Francisco. It just made sense for me to go there. And I had my class schedule and everything. I was actually going to major in kinesiology. I had all my schedule sorted and everything. And then again, going back to funds fell through. You need to give a deposit before you begin college. I guess for every family and every person it's different, but for me we had to give a deposit. I think it was around 3,000 something, and we just didn't have
Jeez,
that.
like imagine your high school self. I mean, obviously you went through this, but I can't even fathom being like, hey, give me $3,000 up front so you can go to school.
Yeah. We didn't get much FAFSA help. I don't know. It's just so unfair to me when I really think about it. But yeah, so we had to
Yeah.
give around 3,000 and we just did not have that at the time. So obviously that fell through, and my dad, being the very understanding and great man he is, told me, you know what, sweetie, take a semester off and then maybe find some work to help me out, and then we can pay when you do go next semester. Air quotes, next semester. Um, Again, that semester turned into 7 years, and I just never went to college. But yeah, so while Patty was in college, I actually did find work like my dad had advised originally. And obviously, you're not going to just graduate high school and not do anything. So I found good work at the North Face outlet in Berkeley. That was like still one of my favorite jobs. And then I got a job that paid really well. I'm not going to say disclose how much or whatever. I don't even know if I should include where it was, but I worked for a big jeweler. And so that was getting me paid pretty good. Good enough to move out of my parents' house and live on my own with my partner in Pleasant Hill. Patty visited every time she came back, for the summers or whenever school was out. She would come back home,
And like
obviously.
winter breaks, semester breaks
Yes,
as well.
holiday
Yeah.
breaks and all that. We've made some memories in that apartment. And yeah, so I've always kind of been like a steady worker. for sure, while Patty was, studying, being a hard little studier. Is that weird?
Study
Being a good
a
little student.
student. Yeah, you started life faster than me, I guess. Like in terms of what comes next after high school, which
Mm,
of course is college, but then after college, unless you're going to get your master's and or PhD, then you start life.
mm.
But for you, it was those 4 years after high school, you were developing into adulthood while
Yeah.
I was still in the student world or brain, I don't know,
No,
kind of setting.
no, I totally get what you mean, and it's even cooler that we've remained best friends because we were on such different kind of wavelengths at a time at different times, especially during like Patty's college career and when I was getting into, full-time employment and stuff like that. We were at completely different parts of life. But remaining best friends and continuing our memories whenever we saw each other in person and just keeping up to date with one another, even though everything was so different. And maybe that did help us because we had so many different things to talk about and like learn from one another,
That's
you know?
Yeah, that's so true. I never thought of it like that, actually.
Yeah, no, I think this wine is making me talk. I mean, this wine is getting me deeper and deeper emotionally.
Damn, are we gonna rely on this wine to get us talking every episode?
Oh no, maybe the deeper things. I don't know. Yeah, so I definitely feel that actually did help, even though it's kind of interesting that we were going such different routes. But as I was, setting up my new place, an apartment, learning to really cook for myself, I think still you were kind of doing some similar things. I mean, you had a dorm room, and I remember you had a
Yeah, that's
dorm
true.
that was an apartment. I really loved that one.
Oh my gosh, it was my sophomore year apartment,
Ah,
Granada. Man, so beautiful.
and
And
you
then
were
after that,
you were an
it
RA,
was just downhill from
right?
there. Yeah. Yeah, my freshman year of college, actually, I was living in the dorms and was hanging out with my floor mates all the time and hanging out with my RA as well. Like, so I got to know a little bit about what a resident advisor entailed. And then he mentioned, oh, you get free housing. And that was when I realized, man, I didn't think about how I'm going to pay for living costs after the first year because my university required people to live in the dorms your first year,
Oh, I didn't know that.
so that you could be on track for staying in school and to prevent those dropout rates because the college can be hard in the first year. So that transition period, they want to ensure that you have all the resource that you need and that they can provide to keep you on. So
Oh,
that's when it hit me when he told me like, "Oh yeah, you can apply to be an RA and you get, some stipend every month as part of your payment, and then another part of your compensation is to get free housing, quote unquote, because of course you're working for it." So
ah,
yeah, and then I thought, okay, great, so I'm gonna apply for that. So it literally was just like an opportunity that presented itself, and then I took it, and then I applied for it, and then ended up getting it. So
nice.
I never had, even in my second to fourth year of college, this is what I mean by you started life way faster than me because I didn't really have to pay for any bills. So it was
Ah,
kind of this like
like,
not not coasting, but delaying this responsibility
yeah.
since I was technically working for my compensation, but it didn't feel like work because I was a student and I was in that
Yeah, it was on
campus
campus.
life setting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes total sense. Ah, interesting. I didn't know that that's why, or I'm sure that's not the only reason why you applied to be an RA, but I didn't realize it was also because obviously you had to figure out how to pay for the rest of the rest of
Yeah,
the
it
year's
it really
living
hit me. I was
situation.
like, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know where." Like, I didn't think beyond my first year. And then that's when I don't know, it was just like at one point I thought of like, "Damn, if I'm not going to be able to pay for this, then I'm just dropping out." So, it was either like continue school and get the job or just drop out of school if I don't get the job.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Well, good thing that you got the job because, wow, that
Yeah,
would have been
seriously.
a total different story. So, Good
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, I'm sure that if I didn't end up getting the job, I probably would have tried to look at other options or how what people are doing if they're living in an apartment or shared apartment. So, there of course there could have been other ways, but I guess my point is just that I took that route and I ended up doing it for the rest of my college years. On the 4th year, I probably could have stopped it, but of course I still enjoyed the job and had gotten comfortable with the job as well on that 4th year.
Yeah.
Although I did apply for a senior role, which means that
Ooh.
you were more responsible for other RAs as well. So
Oh, you would be kind of like a lead, like a boss
exactly.
for the
Yeah.
RAs. Oh, interesting. That's so cool. Obviously, I don't know anything about this world, so that's interesting. You explaining kind of what an RA entails, and then how you can further, I guess, move up as an RA.
Mhm.
But I'm sure that definitely taught you a lot of leadership and responsibility. So,
It definitely did for sure.
so had you ever considered applying to be part of a sorority? I want to know that.
Yeah, I did consider it, but at
Ah,
SDSU and it's different in every school, right?
mhm.
So
Yeah.
even the sororities within in one school could be completely different in another school. So
Mm.
SDSU, and this is what I learned as I was spending the years there or the time there, was that it was a very success driven school, but it was all about that social interaction. And because I knew I was going to be an RA, so how it works actually is in the second semester of your freshman year, you're able to rush is what it's called. So you can
Yeah.
visit different sororities and get to know and network with them as well. So you can do that in your second semester of your freshman year. And then you can be part of it starting the next year. So your sophomore year and onward. So for me, this was around the time that I was also applying for the RA position. And then so I think what I did, or subconsciously or consciously did, was I was like, I'm just going to put all my effort in getting this RA job and not
Mm.
focus really on this rushing thing. And
Oh,
then because I was like, I could always rush next semester if I still wanted to be part of it.
oh, I
And
see.
so the whole point of it is just to, of course, have a network in your university, but also after university as well. But for me, I found that through the RA system or
That makes
resident
sense.
advisor system. So I kind of just took that. And the people there were, at least at my school, were much more chill. I don't know. They always partied and,
Honestly,
just like in the movies,
yeah,
it's
I
a
was
lot of work.
surprised. I could totally see you having been, but does that even make sense? Is that even English? See, I need to go to college. Just kidding. Um but I could have totally seen you as part of a sorority because of
Mhm.
how social you are and well you adapt within like a community or a group setting. And
Yeah.
I knew that you could network well. So I totally thought that you would have been part of one, but at the same time, it's funny because I can't see you being a part of a sorority because you are a bit
Yeah,
too
right? It's
chill.
weird.
Yeah, I can't see you being like when I think of sororities, and I think this is just because of the classic like chick flick movies, and I think of like a bunch of girls screaming and excited
Like that
all
one
the
video
time.
of I don't know, this one promo video. Do you know what I'm talking about? And it's even in TikTok, like they're making fun of it. But they're like, "Hey, we've been waiting all summer for you." And then
Oh
they
yeah.
open the doors and it's like 200 girls. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, that is the creepiest sorority video I've ever seen in my life, and it makes me feel like you could create a paranormal plot line with just
Oh
that video
my god.
alone.
That's true. That's so true. It's kind of like Get Out, you know?
Yeah.
How they were so welcoming and like bougie and
Yes.
stuff, and
And
then
they
bam,
trick
they
you,
switch
they,
up
like,
on you.
comfort you. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it's just actually a scary thing.
No, but but I mean, this is of course I'm not trying to bash on it, and I
Same.
guess what I'm just trying to say is that I didn't find my fit for it at the time.
Man, whenever we talk about San Diego State, I just get all the feels. Like I just want to be in San Diego, but
Oh, I know, me too.
San
It's
Diego.
been, huh?
No, I
San
was
Diego?
yeah.
Oh gosh. Uh,
Dago. Okay.
oh my god,
Let me
please
stop.
don't. We're ending this podcast right
Oh my
now.
god. Okay,
No,
see you
no.
guys next time. No, just kidding. See you. Hear you. No, they hear us. Okay, anyway.
oh my god. Yeah, so college, RA, I was part of it. One thing though that I didn't do throughout college, and maybe if I was part of a sorority, I probably would have known to do it. I didn't do any internships until after college
Oh.
because I just joined the major because I had to, first of all. I mean, I could have gone undeclared, which means that you don't have a specific major, so you take
Yeah,
more of a holistic general studies sort of classes.
that makes sense.
But I didn't. And so I was very focused on management information systems, and it was a newer field. And so yeah, I guess that's one of the disadvantages of being the first in your family to go to college because
Hmm. You don't have like
no
a clear
one
path, are you
exactly,
saying?
like,
Okay.
I haven't seen anybody in my, like, personal life go through the steps. So, of course, you can argue, "Oh, you should have gone to the career center or network more and blah, blah, blah," but I think I'm a big believer in that people don't wanna hear anything until they wanna hear it or something like that, or at least
No,
it
I
comes
get
from
you.
someone they would listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand that. So I don't know if you feel complete with speaking on your college career, but I just wanted to ask you, what do you think has been more valuable? Has it been, your college experience or your actual experience in the field now? Would you be able to even answer that at this point? But yeah,
Hmm.
so overall, what do you think has been more valuable to you?
Damn, that's a good question. I think they're both valuable. So
For sure.
I just even though I feel like I wasn't making conscious decisions, not that someone was forcing me to make the decisions in
You're doing them
college,
drunk.
but
Just kidding.
I was just I was just going with the flow, right? I was like, "All right, I like this class, so I'm going to go for that major." And then I did the
Mm.
classes and then I didn't do any internships. And then I was like, "Oh shit, okay, well, I graduated now, so now what?" Right? But I think college for me was more about the experience that made me who I am and
Yeah.
made me this resourceful person, this very proactive person and networking and
Mm.
making things happen. And so that helps me in the career that I have now.
Yeah, so
So both.
yeah, it sounds like you just couldn't have one without the other. Like
yeah,
they
it's
both
like
help you
they
grow.
build on top of each other.
Okay. Oh, that's a good answer.
I guess that leads into the next topic of or the next path of after college. So making a decision and starting a career, which is a whole nother beast in itself. So after I graduated, I couldn't get away from SDSU. So I applied to be kind of an RA, but it wasn't this RA setting, but being a community assistant, I think. I forget the name of it, but remember I continued to work after the summer I graduated to
Yes.
be so in the summertime the university like rents out different buildings on the campus to different schools or conferences that have their events in the campus. So sometimes they have to stay for a month, so like international exchange programs
Uh,
or business conferences too, like that happens too. So I was able to work throughout that whole summer and it wasn't full time. So I was able to try to find an internship. And that was
uh,
like so hard
mm.
because like I said, I took on this major and I'm like, what do I do with it now?
Oh yeah.
because I didn't really look into it or nor did I have someone in my personal life telling me that I should go this way or that way.
I see.
And of
Yeah.
course, like I said, I didn't ask around. Um, which of course I kind of regret, but then again, don't. But now I know better. Like I'm just looking at it as okay, if I don't know something, I should just ask. So it was something I learned.
Yeah, and that's good to include here for anyone listening, learn from that as
Yeah,
well. If you don't know about something, ask about it, ask around.
exactly. So I ended up finding this internship at a smaller company. It was in staffing. So, being a recruiter for sales professionals in the marketing technology space.
That's right.
So, I was like, okay, great. Like, this isn't too far. I had a car back then. So, I was able to go to it every other day. And
Mm.
then I thought, great, like I could see myself doing this. But then towards the end, I was like, could I really see myself doing this whole recruiting thing?
Good
So it was just
eye.
that second guessing myself. So then I was like, well, okay. So there were a few of us as interns at that company, and they were only able to choose one. And sadly, I didn't get chosen, but I took it as an opportunity as my time to be able to travel in Europe. Because at the same summer, or like right after I graduated, I also got my US citizenship. I did have a green
Woo!
card, so hold your tea.
Hold your tea.
Yeah, so I was legal, so, um, luckily, of course, but I know some people might have opinions about that, so I feel like I should just address it.
Aw, no, that opinion doesn't matter. No, I'm sorry. Okay, never mind. Anyway.
But yeah, so, I just booked a flight to
Yes.
Europe and luckily. Huh?
No, I'm just adding my yes.
Yeah, I booked a flight and flew to Europe for a few months, and then after that trip, I came back to the Bay Area and lived with my mom for a little bit.
Sorry. Let me stop with these, like, little
Can you,
ad
like,
libs.
make that into an echo? Like
Oh, I should try.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
got
the
into, like, the details of that, or a little bit of the details to that in the last episode again. So, at this point, if you haven't caught on, you should probably
yeah,
listen to that first episode.
go back.
But, yeah, so I ended up needing to choose, of course, needing to find a job after I got back because I was also never stagnant. I guess what I can also say was throughout college, not only did I work as an RA, but especially in the summers in between, I did work when I was back home at fast food restaurants and, doing
That's
that
right.
customer service thing. We even worked together too.
Yep, that's right.
So,
My only food job
um,
was with Patty. 2 patties, actually.
yeah.
Oh, really quickly, that Patty, the other Patty did reach out. We posted a little
Mhm.
teaser on each of our personal Instagrams, and she reached out, and she's super excited.
Oh,
Shout
that's
out
so
Patty if you're
cool.
listening.
Hi, Patty. It's Patty.
Aw.
And yeah, so I had those jobs in between in the summers. And then even in my fourth year, so we were able to also have in that year only, I think it was the first year that they allowed RAs to have another part time position. So I did also have another part time role because, got to get that money
Mhm.
to pay the student loans, but it's okay.
Mhm.
So, getting a job right after my trip wasn't the first, like, job decision that I had to make outside of the RA thing. So, I don't know, it just kind of came to me that I should look at the skills that I have now and the identity capital that I have built. Side note,
Ooh,
that's a one concept that the Defining Decade, the
identity
author in the
capital.
Defining Decade describes is like all the skills basically that you build towards your career path.
Still
So,
waiting on
of
my book,
course,
but excited to read that part.
yeah, shouldn't it come soon, like
May 8th.
this week or next?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
so
that's
next week.
next, right? I don't even know what day or week it is. Quarantine
Yeah, it
life.
will be not this week, but the next. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the skills that I already had from being an RA and even that small internship. I ended up finding this big Fortune 500 company that had a
Ah,
training program. I ended up applying for that role for that specific reason that they can kind of train you to be either a recruiter or a business developer. So you
perfect.
had exposure to both sides, but I really enjoyed the recruiting side of it and
Mm,
ended up really liking my team there. And it was an agency, so it entails like, really fast pace and a lot of output that they look for. And so meeting these metrics and all that. So it wasn't, of course, I think every work's gonna be work.
Yeah,
But
it is called
um
work.
exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't something that I knew I would want to do for the rest of my life, but I was like, "Hey, this is fun. I'm learning things
Yeah.
and I'm being exposed." And it's a good company, they've been around for a while, and I think it was good for me to have that advantage of being able to learn in that environment.
Yeah, and you were basing your decisions mainly off of your experience, which is very logical. So it all makes
Yeah,
sense
exactly.
why, you chose what you chose to do.
And that job ended up helping me get this job that I have now in Germany. So I guess, that was my career path.
Yeah.
And it's
Wow.
still, of course, continuing. So
Yeah. So
maybe I'll update you on the next one.
that Fortune 500 company was in Seattle?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
the
what
one.
took you to Seattle? Okay, so that then took you to Seattle. Meanwhile, all this was going on within your career. You were not only maintaining a long distance relationship with me, I mean, obviously friendship, but
Mhm.
also a romantic relationship with someone across the world. And
Mhm.
yeah, and then you did see, a few postings and that opportunity across the world doing what you're doing, but like an even cooler position it sounded like because you were I forgot how you explained it. It's like the official title of the job, but it was handling a lot of international
Yeah,
clients
so
or
so
recruitees.
right now I'm responsible for recruiting, development, retainment of talent, and even evaluating the people in the organization and also
Oh.
driving the company culture, especially since it's a tech startup.
And I feel like, I mean, I'm not trying to speak for anyone, but I just have this feeling that they probably chose you as the right person for the job because obviously looking at your experience and kind of your life overall, I mean, you were an immigrant, from Philippines, you're actively learning German, you speak great English, you know your native tongue, Tagalog really well. Is it
Mhm.
Kapampangan that you speak or
The dialect, yeah, the
yeah, yeah.
Philippine dialect that we speak is Kapampangan.
So
Mhm.
cool. So I feel that they thought, oh, she's kind of perfect for this position and, to drive culture. So, uh,
Damn, you didn't e I never thought of it like that. I always thought, like, of course, it was just, maybe the recruiting job that I've been
experience.
in for a year and 5 months at the time
Ah,
before like, put in my notice, but, yeah, I didn't think about that. Hmm, thanks for that
yeah, I
insight.
got you. That's what best friends are for. Um, but yeah, so then that obviously then took you to where you are now. Super cool.
Mhm.
We've heard a lot about Patty's career path and how she got to where she is now. And as for me, just recently, I don't know if I can still consider it just recently, but I left a company that I would have been with for nearly 4 years. And I didn't expect that, obviously. And I didn't even expect to have been there that long. But it's just, especially when you're in your kind of early 20s to mid 20s, everything is kind of shifting and changing, and you're really learning more and more about yourself and, going through all these transitions. So, like I said, I was with a company for nearly 4 years, and it was a health and wellness company. I was doing the main customer communications and social media marketing for our US base. I was the only one representing the US and taking
You
care of
were you
the
did
US
such a
orders.
great job representing the whole US, honestly. I mean, you guys were only, like, 2 people at the time and then
We
3 by
were,
the
yeah.
end. Right? So I totally get you, and, um,
Yeah.
having a small team, there's a lot that goes in you
Yeah.
and that you have to put out to be able to carry the
So
team
much
too.
that goes into it. Yeah. And even to this day, when people ask what happened to that position and whatnot, people are still surprised that it was such a small team. And so that does make me
Really?
feel a little better, that we did a good job while I was on the team, to cover everything that we could and make sure. Yeah, we had to respond to customer issues and handle things within 12 hours. And I'm the only one handling all these US customers. So it's just like, you can only imagine. So,
They
yeah,
even
that's
ask
definitely,
you some weird questions, right?
yeah,
Could you
some
re
more questions. I'm like,
Are you able
um,
to talk about those type of questions or, like, I
I
don't
don't
know if
know
you're in
if
a
higher ups will listen to what we put out. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. I didn't sign like a, what do you call that? Like a D, whatever.
An
Uh,
NDA or
NDA,
something?
NDA. I was gonna say
Yeah.
DNA, but I was like, nope, that is what makes us
A
human.
disclosure non-agreement instead of a
Thank
non-disclosure agreement.
thank you for saying it all out, like all the words, because now I'll for sure remember that it's NDA.
Mhm.
Anyways.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, it goes back to, again, listen to the last podcast so you're all caught up and in order, but it goes back to what I was saying. Like, I block a lot of things out that really gets me or stress me out or traumatizes me in a sense. But I got asked a lot of weird questions, and then sometimes I got asked the same question. Most days I got asked the same question 40 times a day, which was like, can I take these if I'm pregnant? Or
Did
or
you have a template for that, or was it had to be unique, right?
it had, so that was another thing. Even though we were handling all these orders and customer issues, we had to make each response unique. And do you understand how frustrating that can be? I just can't. I did have sort of a template, but I just had to change a lot of it for each time. So 40 times a
Mhm.
day, I was re-editing the same response. So it's just, it
Yeah.
gets to you after a few years of that being part of your daily routine and task in the workplace. And so you can only imagine why I chose to leave. It wasn't just because things were getting repetitive, but it was just more so, there were a lot of issues when you're a small company and you don't even have like an official HR person to go to about certain issues within the workplace, or how you feel
Mhm.
that you're being treated as an employee. Like, you go straight up to the CEO, the owner of
And
the
it's a lot
company.
of pressure. I
So
also
much.
report directly to my CEO now, and there are some things that you're like, "Is this okay to talk to you about, or will you think that I'm incompetent?" Not that he's that kind of person to think it, but
But
again, being
yeah.
in my head, it's like, I don't wanna bring up this maybe small issue, but it's still bothering me, so it's like, what do I do?
Yeah, that's exactly, how I felt a lot of the time whenever issues arose. And I'm sure that you can completely relate, especially now. There are cultural differences, and this company had started in the UK in London. And then I became part of the team when they opened up a branch in the US in LA. And that's how I got my job. But even with that, they were still getting used to kind of like American culture, and certain things just didn't
Yeah.
translate well between one another. So that was a big part of it as well. It was crazy to directly report to a CEO that was from a completely different uprising or background and whatnot. So that did,
Uprising? Is that
I know, not
wait,
raising, but
upbringing.
upbringing. Thank you. See
Mhm.
what best friends are for. Thank you, because
I got you, girl, I
after
got
I
you.
said that, I was like, you know what? Just stick with it. You sound confident. Keep it rolling.
Damn, I shouldn't have said anything then.
No, I'm so glad you did, because I might have said that again in another conversation, and I'm glad. It's upbringing, upbringing,
Okay, so
asterisk.
NDA and upbringing.
Yes, I gotta write those down somewhere. Where are my notes? But yeah, so obviously it is a little harder to relate to someone coming from a completely different upbringing, and relay your issues that you're feeling within the workplace. So that played a lot into it. But overall, I'm completely thankful for the experience, the opportunity. It changed my life in so many ways. It allowed me to work in all these different places. I mean, I worked in the Modern Arts Building in downtown LA. I worked in Pasadena. I worked in Santa Monica. Then I worked from home. I worked in San Francisco. So it was,
They were really flexible with that.
yeah, they really did treat me well as far as where I wanted to work and whatnot. So again, very thankful. And even though I missed out on a complete college experience, I did experience other things that took me to places I'd never been. And so at the same time, even though I wish I'd gone to college, because honestly, if I'm being honest, I still do wish that I, gone that route, but I don't regret what I did in hindsight. I still do believe that what I did was completely correct for myself at the time, and I'm open to going to college now. I mean, with everything going on, it's hard to kind of really research where I want to go and when I'm going to apply, because with everything going on, my anxiety is kind of all over the place. Like, I'm not all that steady every day and have the correct motivation to sit down and look at, okay, this is what I'm going to be studying, this is the program I want to do, and this is the school. It's hard right now because we don't even know if our schools here will be open in the fall. And what I have learned about myself is that I'm not good in front of a screen for a really long time unless it's
Mm.
something that I'm very passionate about. Like, I love editing videos and even podcasts. It's really fun to me. And so with that, I can be in front of a screen for a really long time. But when it's something I'm not super passionate about, and I know with education, you're going to have to go through general ed and things that you're not that interested in, but you have to get done to learn it. I just know I'm not good doing that online, completely online. I have to be in person. I'm a very big visual learner. I'd like to have a class setting. So, with the current state of the world and my state, I don't even know if I'll be able to return to school this, new next semester. But to summarize
Would you
everything,
say that that would be your biggest takeaway? Or that aside, what would you say skills wise was your biggest takeaway from that job?
good question. Huh. I feel like I've taken so much away, but overall, the biggest thing was self-organization, just maintaining organization when it's all up to you. Um, at times,
Yeah, because it was literally just you. So
yeah, it was just me, and I was working in a co-shared like office space. So there were actual humans nearby. I did have work neighbors, but they weren't a part of my company. They weren't people that I could easily go to vent about something from work or just ask for help. It was all really up to me. I need to get this done by this time, this done by this time, and keep myself motivated. Don't let myself be so distracted. And so yeah, overall the biggest skill that I feel like I have developed well was like structure and organization,
Mhm.
just knowing what to do, when to do it, how to organize my day, pretty much.
Yeah, and some people may not think that it's a big deal, but it's a big deal to have that, especially if you're working by yourself in a team. So I can totally relate. Now I have a team member, which of course puts on a different responsibility. But when I was
Mm,
in my role now for, I don't know, about 9 months by myself or 10, no, 9 months by myself,
long
it
time.
was so hard to know what to prioritize first. And like you just said, organizing even the littlest things, really. So,
Exactly. And in the end, that also does affect your mental state. So, literally, I had no team members close to me. I had no management close to me. They were across the world. So, I could be on my phone whenever I wanted to be. I could text whoever I want, when I want. But on days that I did allow myself to be so distracted with maybe my phone or, visiting YouTube on a separate web browser real quick, I did find myself, messing myself up for that day. And my motivation would go out the window when I was so distracted. And by the end of the day, when it was closer to the time that I could leave the building or typically end work, I was swamped with things to do because I allowed myself to be so distracted earlier on in that day that now I had all this work pile that I needed to stay later to finish. And because of that, it would affect my mental. I'd be like flustered. I'd be so angry. I'd be hungry because I want to go home and start cooking dinner already. And in the end, that definitely can take a big toll on your mental. So I think it's a very important skill to develop. So I'm very thankful because that opportunity and that job taught me self motivation and some structure. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So, overall, from my perspective, I briefly mentioned it earlier in this episode, but this idea of building your identity capital, and say you want to go back to school and go for a digital marketing profession
Mhm.
or career, right? And you're in between two jobs of either working maybe at Starbucks or Pete's Coffee and getting that job, or working in the mailroom of a digital marketing company. Even though the mailroom job doesn't sound too exciting, right, as maybe getting that free coffee, because
Yeah.
that is important. But what the defining decade and the author Meg Jay says is that take the job that is more aligned with your career, what you want to do later on, even if you maybe not have a full picture of what you want to do later. Because sure, the mailroom job
Yeah.
itself might not be as glamorous, or is not something you want to do forever, and it won't be, but you'll be in an environment where you are surrounded by people who are doing the job that you want. So you can network with them, you can learn from them, and just get exposure to this world. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I guess I just wanted to wrap it up on that note for me.
I'm still very much interested in continuing my education and going back to school. So we'll see if maybe there's another podcast later on down the line. And I'm
About going
currently
back
in
to
school.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not going back to school, but maybe in it or something. I don't know. I
Yeah.
remember you did tell me though that you have considered trying to get your master's or continuing school.
Yeah, I did think about that for a long while, but I don't know. I think if I go back for a master's, I certainly would want to go back knowing exactly what I want to do. And I
Mm,
think that I'm not at that level,
I
or I'm
see.
not at that phase or confidence yet in my career level
Yeah.
that I would actually do it now, or we even within the next year. Maybe, honestly, I don't know, but if
Yeah.
you're
Things
asking me
change quickly.
today, I wouldn't. But
Yeah. Not sure.
there was a long while where I like closed off the option of going back to school, but now I see in my role today that it could be important, but like I said, I want to go back for something that I actually want to learn deeper as well.
Yeah. With a clear drive and focus. That makes total sense.
Exactly.
And I feel that, amongst our peers around the same age, that's a big thought for them as well. And Taylor, right?
Yeah, she's finishing up her PhD, so
Oh my
kudos to
God.
her, because I can't even imagine being in school at this time. And
Major
she also
kudos.
actually said, she was like, I can't even imagine working at this time. So, I mean, two
Yeah.
different perspectives. I mean,
Yeah. I was thinking if we ever had a guest on this podcast, who would we have? And I was thinking she could be a good candidate because obviously you guys grew very close during your college careers. And I met her, I really like her, and she's actually pursuing the sort of career path that I'd always dreamed of, I guess. So even if
yeah,
I go back to school, I want to study international relations, and I know that that's what she's doing, and she's getting her PhD.
I know. She's a woman. She's the
A
woman.
woman.
Actually, she did message me the other day and was like, "Hey, I'm excited to listen to yours and Kim's video
Oh,
or podcast," because I guess it wasn't clear if it was podcast or video. So she put the video slash podcast. But yeah, so hi Taylor, if you're
hey
listening.
Taylor. Oh, that's so nice. That's so sweet that she reached out to you with that. I'm excited for you to hear it. Hopefully, you're listening now. But maybe she could be a potential guest. Maybe we'll have our men on one episode. I don't know. We'll see. Um,
That'll be interesting.
yeah, I'm sure the listeners would love to hear that German accent. Maybe I'll have my dog as a guest. I don't know. We'll see. With that said, before I keep naming random people and animals, we should just wrap this up. So, with that, good morning from Kim.
Good night from Patty.
You'll hear us in the next one, hopefully. Okay. Bye.
Bye.